Slime Rancher, the cozy little game where you feed all your beloved slimes and sell their excrement for financial domination. Just like a real farmer. That's what farmers do, right? That's what farmers. Well, today I'm going to be looking into the soundtrack for the game. What makes it fit the universe, what makes it sound good and unique, and what makes it sound ranchy, all while doing my best to recreate and emulate it. By the end of this video, you'll hopefully have a deeper understanding for this game's unique sound and the factors that come together to create it, including a short interview with the composer. Enjoy. In Slime Rancher, you play as a character named Beatrix Lebois. And I don't know, I'm not French. Who got sick of living mundanely on Earth and decided to move across the universe for a fresh start. This fresh start looking like buying a ranch and becoming a slime rancher, building her ranch from nothing into a profitable sanctuary that she calls home. The main gameplay involves adventuring out into the different sections of the map, finding new slime species to hold captive, all made easier with the tech of your backpack, which allows you to suck stuff. Bring the slimes back to your ranch, get them situated, and rake in the plore money. This game is very cozy and relaxing, and the music takes claim to a good chunk of that. Having virtually no hostile mobs also helps. Besides these guys, but they're not much of a problem. Meaning you never really feel rushed to do anything, and can kinda take everything at your own pace. The music feels warm and personable, with a sound palette to complement it. A lot of the songs sound super jolly and carefree, but still contain a ton of romantic tension. Happy, yet melancholic. There are themes for each section of the map, with 4 variations of each. There's the regular theme, the relaxed theme, the night theme, and the late night theme. The regular theme version is by far the most colorful and happy music in the game. The relaxed variants are a little more bare bones, they're slowed down and, well, relaxed. The night and late night variants are my favorite. This is where the bittersweetness of the soundtrack really shines. The night and late night themes provide massive tangents of recycling what was given to it, reorchestrating it, and reharmonizing it to a darker, minor feel, and basically just bringing it to an entirely new place. Sometimes dipping its toes in eerie, almost creepy waters. Now, the 4 categories and the way I explain them is by no means an exact science, but just things I noticed while listening. I'll let you decide. I'm gonna play the 4 variations of the moss blanket theme, my favorite theme in the game. First is the regular theme. It's adventurous, happy, and somewhat eager, like you're just marching along. I love this little section with the flute. Now, the relaxed theme. It's definitely slower, the orchestration is thinned a bit, and most of the counter melodies are gone or simplified. Next, we have the night theme. Okay, we are definitely in a way different place. Completely reharmonized and darkened, energy has picked up a bit, and it hardly resembles the original track anymore. And lastly, the late night theme. This is by far the darkest version of the theme. It's slowed way down, and there's a sense of yearning. It has heavy Victorian vibes to me, still remaining adventurous though. You can hear they get darker as they go on, like day to night. This might be a little abstract, but a lot of the music in the game sounds like it's in the past tense to me. It's very reminiscent, as if the music isn't playing currently, but rather being looked back upon. And a large part of that goes to many of the tracks being waltzes, which is categorized for its dreamy feel. A waltz is a piece of music written in 3/4, typically for ballroom dance. 3/4 means it has 3 beats per bar, opposed to 4 like you're probably used to. The waltz is an immediately recognizable sound. I'm sure you've heard something like this. That's a waltz. And even though many of the tracks aren't waltzes, a 4/4 track can still kind of have a waltzy feel, something you could imagine a romantic dance to. The sound palette is just the sounds the composer, Mack in this case, chose to use. There's a reason he went for these instruments and not heavy metal overdrive guitars. The sound selection is a huge part of the mood and overall vibe. He kept to a pretty small selection of instruments, real instruments with movement. Even if the accordion is a synthesized sound, it's meant to sound like real accordion reeds vibrating. All the sounds have a texture and an aspect of grit to them, giving them that cozy and ranchy feel. The instrument that immediately jumps out as the base that most tracks are built on is the acoustic guitar. It's often doing a playful, waltzy dance, or working as rhythmic and harmonic accompaniment through chord strumming, sometimes even taking on a slight Spanish sound. The next signature sound in Slime Rancher is the strings, from violin to cello. The strings take up a huge portion of the soundtrack and are probably the most prominent sound in the game. They play almost all the articulations, like tremolo and pizzicato, and contain a ton of texture, like you can hear the rosin bow on a microscopic level. Okay, maybe not, but I also like that the violins occasionally have bendy notes. It's fun. And ranchy. The accordion is another instrument that shows up throughout the soundtrack. The accordion is clearly an important part of the overall sound with how much it's heard. For example, the Dry Reef theme. Lots of accordion. For bass in the game, we predominantly have bass guitar, but the upright bass also makes an appearance. You know, just the basics. Another very important sound of the game is the marimba, though the vibraphone and celeste are also used. In the Indigo Quarry theme, we can actually hear all three being played one after another. Next in our sound palette, we have the flute. Now, I've been playing Slime Rancher for a good few years and never noticed how much flute there was until I did some focused listening. There's a lot of flute, but we have many types of woodwinds. We have the flute, the pan flute, the oboe, the bassoon. I didn't hear any clarinet, but I easily could have missed it. In the Ancient Ruins theme, we can hear the flute here. And the oboe and bassoon here. The next instrument that shows up frequently is the harp, which adds to the gentleness of the soundtrack. The last instrument with prominency is the piano, because what indie game would be complete without a goddamn piano? Now, off of the sound palette thing, I have two more instruments I want to bring up, one of which being brass. Now, in Slime Rancher, the brass is kind of far and few between. I do not prescribe brass as being an important part of the overall sound. I think the lack of brass helps shape the sound, however. It's not just the sounds Harry Mack chose to use, but all the instruments he chose not to use. One more bonus instrument to include. In the Glass Desert theme, we hear this weird kind of psychedelic sound. Well, that is the sound of a crystal bachet, which is pretty much just this, but big. An instrument made of glass for the Glass Desert? I like it. Now with my focused listening and note-taking being over, I think I'm ready to give it a shot. The very first thing on my mind was to establish a melancholic waltz, particularly with the acoustic guitar. The only problem being, I don't know how to play guitar, and even if I did, I only have an electric. Thankfully, we live in the modern age, so I found a decent sounding guitar in the Contact Factory library, and put harp chords under it. I made the last bar 4/4, as if the song is taking a breath before moving on to the next pattern. Next I added strings to fill out harmony a bit. The last thing I did for this section was add a melody with the accordion and doubled it to the cello, giving us something like this. For the second section, I wanted something a little more fast-paced and adventurous, something I could see myself running around the world to. With another guitar from the Contact Factory library, I put down these strumming chords, with a simple electric bass line underneath. The entirety of the second half is in 4/4, by the way. Then I once again added an accordion melody, this time doubling it with pizzicato cello. Then with a violin and cello, I made this more flowing part. Which brings us to the marimba being introduced, and the celeste, and the vibraphone. I then copy and pasted my entire second section over, added a flute and switched up some stuff, ending the track with the most complex technique of all: chimes then silence. My track will be played in its entirety at the end of this video, but there's still one thing we haven't touched on yet: the composer. The composer is the guy who made the music. His name is Mack, composer and sound designer from the motherland, Canada. He's credited on quite a few games, including Spiral Knights and of course Slime Rancher. So I emailed Monami Park, the studio that made Slime Rancher, to see if I could ask Harry some questions about his process while composing. And they got back to me, super fast too. They said he was very busy at the moment, but to send my questions anyway. And awesomely, he made time for it. So thank you Harry Mack for writing out these responses and giving us a little more insight. Before reading his responses, I just want to quickly preface that anytime he refers to Nick, he's referring to Nick Popovich, creative director and founder of Monami Park, aka the shot caller. Now, without any further ado, the first question was, in your opinion, how does the main ensemble of instruments you chose affect the feel of the music and overall vibe of the game? To which he said, the instruments for Slime Rancher were definitely chosen on purpose to evoke a certain feeling when playing. For example, we could have used completely chipped tunes for old school retro, which we did for Victor's Slimulation, or a lot of synths, or a full orchestra. The vibe we were going for was something nostalgic but also French, which was the direction Nick gave me from day one. So what does French really mean? Lots of things, but for the game and myself, it meant an emphasis on the guitar and violin, but especially the accordion, which I think I tried to sneak into every track some way, even when it didn't completely make sense. If Nick didn't say to go romantic, rustic French in space, and instead suggested to go for the fast-paced action of, say, Doom, I'd have started with a completely different set of instruments. Similar to what I said earlier with the distorted guitars. It just wouldn't work. I didn't know about the French influence because I don't know a ton about French music, but okay, I know nothing about French music. My second question was, how did the areas of the world affect the musical themes and feel? And did the style of gameplay affect your composing? To which he said, Slime Rancher zones very much affected the music of the area. Much more so than in Slime Rancher 2, where we tried to keep everything in the same realm musically. One big rainbow island. Slime Rancher 1 zones all had something specific to say, narratively and artistically, so it made sense for the music to match this. The Moss Blanket is like an adventure through an alien rainforest, so an emphasis on woodwinds. The Indigo Quarry was more grounded and rocky, so more brass and percussion. The Ruins more mysterious, so plays more with an echoey piano. Each of the main ranchers like Vic, Ogden, and Mochi had a whole area to themselves, so their music speaks to their personality as well. As for gameplay, yes, such as the Firestorm. Knowing it's dangerous and full of action was integral to the composing. This is what one of the Firestorm songs sound like. Which is immediately recognized the player as being different and intense. My third question was, do you have a favorite track? If so, what is it? His answer being, Mochi's nighttime music most likely. It actually came first, in the sense that I composed it intending it to be the day track. The direction was to keep it melancholy using Japanese instruments, and it came out really nice. But then, following the structure of the day-night where we start a song in major and then recompose it to be a bit slower, sadder, more dangerous, and now in minor, that was a challenge. First takes of the nighttime of that were extremely dour, so we decided, let's see what happens if we take it and make it happier. Near the end of the original, it touches in some major chords, so we tried to go with that. And it was a weird thing that came out, which was surprising, but nice. And now that's the day version. But that night one will always be my favorite. Still funny throwing an accordion in that song. He was essentially trying to make an already dark theme darker, which just doesn't fit this game. So he worked in reverse by taking the more minor, sad, scary sound and making it happier. My fourth question was, did you immediately know the vibe for the music, or was there some trial and error for finding the mood? To which he said, Nick helps a lot here. He has a vision before I start and comes prepared with a 10-minute discussion about what it should sound like and what design is going for. Still lots of back and forth until we get it right, but I had a good sense of what we wanted before even starting. Hardest one I think was Vic's Zone. We went through 3 full songs before settling. The first one was a frantic wild ride with a runaway violin, sort of trying to capture a mad scientist losing control of experiments. I like what we ended up with. I'm really curious to hear that track actually. Fifth question I asked him was, are there any skills or experiences you found particularly valuable in your journey as a composer? To which he said, I think composing everything note by note instead of relying on pre-made loops, but most importantly is being up for anything. I started my career thinking, I'm just going to make epic RPG music like what I grew up with. That didn't work out. So challenging myself to make pirate music, polkas, rap, country, electric funk, just making a song in every style I can think of was very helpful, such that when asked to make romantic, rustic French in space, I said, great, let's do that. I agree strongly with Harry on this point. If you want to truly improve your musical ability, you'll have much more success composing from scratch. With loops, there comes a point where you can't even call it composing or producing anymore. You're an arranger at best. And I also have the same outlook in composing with many genres, hence the entire point of this series. The more diverse your skill set is, the less lost you'll be with prompts like rustic French in space. On this channel, we've already dipped our feet into ambient, looked into and recreated pirate music, as well as experimenting with chiptune in my latest video, and I plan to broaden this horizon even more. Of course, it's good to lock in on one genre and truly become fluent in it, but I think I value diversity more. I also just like making every genre. So there you go. A huge thanks to Harry Mack and the Monami Park team member who helped get my message to him. In the internet age, you can get in contact with just about anybody you want, so use it to your advantage. Believe it or not, Slime Rancher is actually one of the games I have the most hours in. Nothing like sprinting through its fantastical world and managing your ranch and getting rich. And as with any game, this fantastical world isn't just what you see on screen, but an amalgamation of the art style, the map, the mechanics, the colors, the music. It all comes together to get across the idea that the studio wanted to get across. And this idea happens to be super charming and kind of addictive. I'm beyond excited for Slime Rancher 2, but I'm waiting for its full release before I play it, so I can binge the ever-living plort out of it, knowing that there's a conclusion and end to the story. It's not just that I'm broke. I mean, that's like a part of it, but that would only be like one slice of the pie. Like if you're looking at a pie graph, you can see most of it is one color. That would be the argument. Let's talk my track. As far as accuracy, I actually exceeded my expectations a bit. Like, if my track was in the game with the rest of the tracks, I don't think it would stand out too sorely. That being said, it definitely could have been orchestrated better, especially at some points, but nothing I could fix with the snap of a finger. Those skills come with time and experience. The part where I feel I really fell short was the transitions. Now, historically, transitions have been a weakness of mine, along with countless amateur composers. Don't lie, you know what I'm talking about. For the first section of the song, I wanted overbearing Slime Rancher vibes, like a caricature of the soundtrack, if you will, strongly inspired by the ranch theme. And the second half, I wanted to be a little more adventurous and flowing. Overall, I'm happy with what I made, even if I am disappointed about some parts. If you made it this far into the video, chances are you enjoyed it, so hit like. If you want to see more of this type of video, consider subscribing. Right now I only have a few other videos up and a handful of subs, but I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. My next video will likely be about adaptive music, which was viewers suggested. It's music that changes and builds correlating with events in-game. Now, without any more words,